The stars looked different today from the bridge of the UNS Defiance. Captain Jake Morrison stood watching the endless black space through the main window when his communications officer called out with urgent news. Commander Lisa Brooks turned from her station with a worried face and told him that long-range sensors had picked up something big coming toward Earth. The readings showed more than 200 massive ships moving in perfect formation, like a military parade in space. Jake felt his stomach drop because he knew this was the moment Earth had been preparing for since they first built ships that could travel faster than light. Admiral Zektar commanded the hegemony fleet from his flagship that was larger than most, human cities. He had done this same routine 47 times before with other worlds. His species called the Veltar had perfected the art of conquering new planets without much fighting. They would arrive in overwhelming numbers and demand surrender. Most species took one look at their massive fleet and gave up without firing a single shot. The Veltar believed humans would be no different from all the other weak races they had easily added to their growing empire. The alien admiral sent his standard message toward the small blue planet. His words were translated into human language by powerful computers and delivered with the cold tone of someone who expected instant obedience. The message was simple and direct. Humans must surrender their world and accept hegemony rule or face complete destruction. All human military forces must power down their weapons and prepare for peaceful occupation. Any resistance would result in the total elimination of human civilization. Jake Morrison read the surrender demand on his command screen and felt anger building in his chest. Earth Command had been monitoring alien activity in nearby star systems for months. Intelligence reports showed that the hegemony had been taking humans from remote colonies for years. The missing colonists were not killed but taken alive for purposes that made Jake's blood run cold. Scientific experiments, genetic testing, and behavioral studies were being conducted on human subjects in alien laboratories far from Earth. Lieutenant Ryan Clark worked at the tactical station and reported that all human ships were ready for battle. Earth had 12 warships hidden behind the moon, waiting for orders. Each ship represented years of human engineering focused on one simple goal. They were built to destroy enemy vessels as efficiently as possible. Human weapons were different from alien technology because they relied on basic physics instead of advanced energy systems. Kinetic accelerators could fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds that would punch through most known defensive systems. The hegemony expected humans to behave like every other species they had encountered. Weak civilizations always chose survival over fighting when faced with impossible odds. Admiral Zektar was confident that humans would see his fleet and immediately surrender. He had never fought a species that viewed overwhelming enemy numbers as a challenge rather than a reason to give up. The Veltar had conquered so many worlds through intimidation that they had forgotten how to fight against determined resistance. Commander Lisa Brooks monitored alien communications and discovered something that changed everything. The hegemony ships were not just here to demand surrender. Hidden among their formation were research vessels carrying hundreds of human prisoners. These were colonists who had disappeared from frontier settlements over the past 3 years. Medical scanners showed that many prisoners were still alive but had been subjected to terrible experiments that violated every human understanding of basic dignity. Jake Morrison made his decision without hesitation. He opened a communication channel to the alien fleet and delivered his response in clear, simple words that left no room for misunderstanding. Earth would not surrender, and humans would not submit to alien rule. The hegemony had made a fatal mistake by taking human prisoners and conducting experiments on them. Now they would learn why humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against their own species. The captain gave orders to all human ships hiding behind the moon. They would not wait for the aliens to attack first. Surprise was their greatest advantage because the hegemony expected easy submission rather than immediate violence. Human military doctrine was based on striking first and striking hard when faced with a superior enemy. Every human ship began moving toward the alien fleet at maximum speed, with weapons charging for the opening attack. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres reported that all kinetic accelerators were loaded and ready to fire. The tungsten rods in their magazines had been specially designed to penetrate alien shield technology. While most galactic civilizations used energy weapons that could be deflected by defensive barriers, human weapons relied on simple mass and velocity. A solid metal projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed would pass through energy shields like they did not exist. Admiral Zektar watched with growing confusion as the single human ship accelerated directly toward his massive fleet. His tactical officers assured him that one small vessel could not possibly threaten 200 hegemony warships. The alien admiral prepared to give the order for a warning shot that would demonstrate his overwhelming firepower. He expected the humans to reconsider their foolish resistance when they saw what his fleet could do to their pathetic little ship. The first human attack came without warning and changed everything. Admiral Zektar thought he knew about warfare. The UNS Defiance fired 6 tungsten rods from its main kinetic accelerator at velocities that approached 20% of light speed. The alien admiral watched in shock as 3 of his largest dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist. The metal projectiles passed through their energy shields like they were made of paper and tore massive holes through hull plating that was supposed to be nearly indestructible. Captain Jake Morrison studied the tactical display as his weapons. Officer reported successful hits on primary targets. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres was already loading the next salvo while the alien fleet struggled to understand what had just happened. Human weapons were designed around basic physics principles. That worked the same way everywhere in the universe. Mass times velocity equals force, and no known technology could stop a solid object moving fast enough. The hegemony fleet began turning toward the lone human ship, but suddenly found themselves facing a much bigger problem. 11 more human vessels emerged from behind Earth's moon and spread out in attack formation. Each ship was smaller than the alien vessels, but moved with deadly purpose. The UNS Liberty was a carrier that launched 24 fighter craft. The UNS Courage and UNS Freedom were destroyers built for speed and quick strikes. Heavy cruisers, like the UNS Victory, carried enough firepower to threaten ships 10 times their size. Commander Lisa Brooks coordinated the attack from her communication station. Human military doctrine emphasized speed and coordination over individual ship strength. While alien fleets relied on massive vessels that could overpower enemies through sheer size, human tactics focused on multiple smaller ships working together. Each human captain knew exactly what the others were doing and could adjust their attacks to support the overall battle plan. Lieutenant Ryan Clark executed his orders with the precision that came from years of training. Human military academies taught officers to think 3 moves ahead and always have backup plans ready. The tactical display showed alien ships trying to form defensive positions, but human vessels were already moving to attack from unexpected angles. Flanking maneuvers and coordinated strikes were standard procedures that every human officer had practiced hundreds of times. Admiral Zektar realized that his fleet was in serious trouble. The hegemony had grown comfortable conquering civilizations that fought using predictable methods. Energy weapons, shield technology, and massive ships were the standard approach throughout the galaxy. But humans had developed their military systems through centuries of fighting other humans who used similar tactics. They had been forced to innovate and create weapons that could defeat enemies who knew all the same tricks. The human fighter pilots proved especially dangerous because they used tactics that made no sense to alien minds. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez led his squadron in attacks against cruisers that were 50 times larger than his small craft. Instead of trying to match firepower with the big ships, the fighters targeted specific weak points that human intelligence had identified. Sensor arrays, weapon mounts, and engine systems were vulnerable to precise strikes from fast-moving attackers. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone kept the UNS Defiance fighting even after taking heavy damage from alien energy weapons. Human engineering emphasized redundancy and field repairs over perfect systems that could not be fixed during battle. When the main power conduit was severed by enemy fire, she rerouted electricity through backup systems that were not designed to handle that much energy. The risk of explosion was high, but losing power meant certain death. The hegemony ships found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to ignore basic rules of galactic warfare. Human vessels continued attacking even when heavily damaged. Captains pressed forward instead of retreating when faced with superior numbers. Crews worked to keep weapons firing even when their ships were falling apart around them. The aliens had never encountered a species that viewed death in battle as preferable to surrender or capture. Danny Torres managed ammunition supplies with the careful attention of someone who understood that running out of bullets at the wrong moment meant losing the fight. Human logistics officers had studied every major battle in their history and learned that victory often went to whoever could keep shooting the longest. Each kinetic accelerator round was precious and had to count toward achieving their tactical objectives. The alien formation began to break apart as human attacks targeted command and control systems. Admiral Zektar watched his carefully organized fleet turn into individual ships fighting for survival. Human weapons seemed designed specifically to destroy the things that made large fleets effective. Communication arrays, sensor networks, and coordination computers were priority targets for every human attack. Lisa Brooks intercepted and modified alien distress signals before they could reach other hegemony forces. Human intelligence services had learned to think like their enemies and anticipate what they would try to do when losing a battle. Instead of calling for reinforcements, the modified messages would tell other alien fleets that humans were too dangerous to fight and should be avoided at all costs. The battle had been raging for 2 hours when Jake Morrison received reports from rescue teams that had boarded damaged alien ships. What they found in the research vessels made every human fighter more determined to continue the attack. Hundreds of human colonists were being held in conditions that violated every standard of decent treatment. Medical experiments, genetic testing, and behavioral studies had been conducted without consent and with complete disregard for human suffering. The captain gave new orders to all human ships. There would be no mercy for enemies who had tortured innocent civilians. No alien vessel would be allowed to escape and carry word back to the hegemony about human military capabilities. This battle would end with either complete human victory or total defeat. Admiral Zektar was about to learn that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of destroying their enemies. The tide of battle turned completely when the UNS Liberty deployed its most secret weapon. Nuclear torpedoes launched from hidden tubes and streaked toward the largest alien ships at incredible speed. The galaxy had moved beyond atomic weapons thousands of years ago because they were considered too primitive and destructive for civilized warfare. But humans had perfected nuclear technology and learned to make weapons that created temporary stars in the vacuum of space. Admiral Zektar watched in horror as his flagship was consumed by a miniature sun that burned brighter than anything he had ever seen. The nuclear warhead bypassed every defensive system the hegemony had developed because alien shields were designed to stop energy beams and particle weapons. They could not protect against weapons that created their own nuclear reactions and released the power of stellar fusion in concentrated bursts. Captain Jake Morrison felt grim satisfaction as he watched enemy ships disappear in nuclear fire. Human military planners had studied alien technology for months and identified weaknesses that could be exploited. While the rest of the galaxy had developed sophisticated energy weapons, they had forgotten that sometimes the simplest solutions were also the most effective. Splitting atoms was basic science that worked the same way throughout the universe. The hegemony fleet began retreating, but found that human ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything they had encountered before. Lieutenant Ryan Clark coordinated pursuit operations with deadly efficiency. human vessels could push their engines beyond safe limits because their crews were willing to accept risks that alien species considered unacceptable. Engine overloads and power failures were acceptable prices to pay for catching fleeing enemies. Commander Lisa Brooks established direct communication with human prisoners aboard alien research vessels. The stories she heard made every human fighter more determined to ensure that no enemy ship escaped to continue their experiments. Colonists had been subjected to medical procedures without anesthesia. Genetic material had been harvested for cloning experiments. Children had been separated from parents for behavioral studies that broke their minds and spirits. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres fired the last of his kinetic accelerator rounds into a fleeing alien cruiser and watched it break apart in a shower of metal debris. Human ammunition was designed to cause maximum structural damage to enemy vessels. Each tungsten rod was engineered to punch completely through a ship and create secondary explosions that would destroy critical systems. No alien vessel could survive multiple hits from human weapons. The pursuit lasted for 6 hours as human ships hunted down every fleeing enemy vessel. Captain Morrison had studied military history and understood the importance of decisive victory. Allowing enemies to escape meant they could return with better preparation and reinforcements. The only way to ensure Earth's safety was to eliminate every alien ship and send a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez led the final attack against a group of alien destroyers that were trying to reach the edge of the solar system. His fighter squadron had been in continuous combat for hours but refused to break off their pursuit. Human pilots were trained to push themselves and their equipment to absolute limits when achieving mission objectives. Personal safety was secondary to completing assigned tasks and protecting human lives. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone kept her engines running at maximum power, even though warning lights showed critical overheating in multiple systems. Human engineering emphasized getting the job done over following safety regulations. Equipment could be replaced, but the opportunity to destroy enemies who threatened Earth would not come again. She diverted coolant from life support systems to keep the engines from exploding. The last alien ship was destroyed as it tried to jump to faster than light speed. Human weapons fired at the exact moment when the enemy vessel was most vulnerable during its transition between normal space and hyperspace. The ship was torn apart by forces it could not control and scattered across several light years of empty space. No trace remained to show that the mighty hegemony fleet had ever existed. Admiral Zektar died when nuclear fire consumed his command ship, but his final message was intercepted by human intelligence. The alien admiral had tried to warn his superiors that humans were unlike any species the hegemony had ever encountered. They fought with a ferocity that defied logic and used weapons that ignored established rules of galactic warfare. His warning would never reach its intended recipients. Jake Morrison surveyed the debris field that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Twisted metal and frozen atmosphere marked the graves of 200 alien warships that had come to conquer Earth. Human rescue teams were already working to recover every surviving colonist from the research vessels. Medical teams stood ready to treat injuries and psychological trauma caused by alien experiments. The cost of victory was acceptable by human military standards. 3 ships had suffered major damage but could be repaired. 12 human fighters had been lost, but their pilots had ejected safely and were recovered by search teams. No human vessel had been completely destroyed, despite facing overwhelming odds. The enemy had learned too late that humans were very difficult to kill and impossible to intimidate. Lisa Brooks compiled battle reports that would be studied by military academies for generations. Human tactics had proven superior to alien methods in every category that mattered. Speed, firepower, coordination, and determination had overcome technological disadvantages and numerical inferiority. The galaxy would learn that humans were apex predators who had earned their place through superior warfare. Danny Torres began the long process of cleaning weapons systems and preparing for the next battle. Human military doctrine assumed that victory in one fight only meant temporary safety. Other alien species would hear about the defeat of the hegemony, and some would view humans as either potential allies or dangerous threats. Earth needed to be ready for whatever came next. The UNS Defiance received new orders from Earth Command before the debris had finished spreading through the solar system. Humanity would not wait for the next alien fleet to arrive at their doorstep. Human ships would establish permanent bases in neutral space and patrol shipping lanes to protect human interests. The galaxy was about to learn that humans took a very active approach to defending themselves and their territory. News of the hegemony's complete destruction spread through galactic communication networks faster than the speed of light. For the first time in recorded history, a newly contacted species had not only refused subjugation, but had utterly annihilated their would-be conquerors. The implications sent shockwaves through every established civilization in the galaxy. Political leaders, military commanders, and intelligence analysts struggled to understand how such a thing was possible. Captain Jake Morrison received priority communications from Earth Command within hours of the battle's end. Admiral Patricia Wells appeared on the main screen with orders that would reshape humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Earth would not be content to wait behind defensive barriers for the next alien threat. Human ships would establish forward operating bases in neutral space and begin active patrols of nearby star systems. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session in their massive station orbiting the capital world of Centaurus Prime. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss what they were already calling the human problem. Ambassador Velkan of the Altarian Federation spoke for many when he suggested that immediate action was necessary. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that threatened the established order of galactic civilization. Commander Lisa Brooks analyzed captured alien databases and discovered information that both encouraged and worried human leadership. Earth was technologically behind most galactic civilizations in areas like energy production, gravity manipulation, and faster-than-light communication. But human approaches to warfare were completely unique. Most species viewed military conflict as a regrettable necessity that should be avoided whenever possible. Lieutenant Ryan Clark prepared detailed reports on human tactical advantages for distribution to Earth's intelligence services. The aliens had relied too heavily on intimidation and technological superiority. They assumed that advanced weapons and massive ships would automatically guarantee victory against primitive opponents. Human military thinking emphasized adaptability, innovation, and the willingness to accept casualties in pursuit of strategic objectives. The first human merchant vessels departed Earth under heavy military escort 6 weeks after the battle. Trade. Ships carried goods that other species found fascinating, including human art, music, and literature. But every cargo vessel was accompanied by destroyers whose captains had standing orders to respond to any threat with immediate and overwhelming violence. The galaxy learned quickly that humans took protection of their civilians very seriously. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres supervised the construction of humanity's first interstellar naval base on a barren moon in the Wolf system. Human engineers worked around the clock to build facilities that could support a permanent fleet presence far from Earth. The base would serve as both a logistics center and a statement of human intentions. Earth's children would not be confined to their home system. The hegemony's client species began declaring independence within days of learning about their overlord's fate. Civilizations that had been forced into servitude for generations suddenly found themselves free to make their own choices. Many sent diplomatic messages to Earth expressing gratitude for human intervention. Others offered trade agreements and mutual defense pacts with the species that had broken their chains. Admiral Patricia Wells established the Terran Space Navy as an independent branch of Earth's military forces. Human ships would patrol trade routes, investigate alien activities, and respond to threats against human interests anywhere in the galaxy. The TSN would operate under rules of engagement that emphasized decisive action over diplomatic solutions. Earth had learned that some problems could only be solved through superior firepower. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez received promotion to squadron leader and began training the next generation of human fighter pilots. His combat experience against alien vessels was invaluable for developing new tactics and procedures. Human pilots learned to exploit the weaknesses of alien ship designs while maximizing the advantages of human technology. Speed, agility, and aggressive tactics were the keys to victory against larger opponents. The Galactic Council's debate about humanity continued for weeks without reaching any consensus. Some species advocated for preemptive strikes against Earth before humans could expand further into galactic space. Others argued for immediate diplomatic contact to establish peaceful relations. A few suggested complete avoidance of human space until better intelligence could be gathered about their true capabilities. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone led the team that reverse-engineered captured alien technology for integration into human systems. While human weapons had proven superior in direct combat, alien advances in energy production and defensive systems offered significant advantages. Combining human military doctrine with alien technology would create vessels that no known force could match. Captain Morrison received his new command when the UNS Defiance was refitted with hybrid human-alien systems. The ship's kinetic accelerators were upgraded with alien energy conduits that could fire projectiles at even higher velocities. Defensive systems incorporated alien shield technology modified to protect against both energy weapons and kinetic attacks. The result was a warship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first diplomatic contact between humans and the Galactic Council occurred when Colonel Helen Parker arrived at Centaurus Prime in the heavily armed diplomatic vessel, UN's ambassador. Her ship was escorted by a full battle group that demonstrated human military strength while maintaining the pretense of peaceful intentions. Parker's message was simple and direct. Humans were open to trade and cooperation, but would respond to any aggression with complete destruction of the attacking force. The galactic economy began adjusting to the reality of human presence within months of first contact. Species that had relied on hegemony protection scrambled to find new security arrangements. Many turned to human military contractors who offered effective protection at reasonable prices. The TSN found itself with more requests for assistance than it could handle using existing resources. Lisa Brooks established the Human Intelligence Service to monitor alien activities and identify potential threats to Earth's interests. His agents operated throughout galactic space, gathering information about military capabilities, political situations, and technological developments. Knowledge was power, and humans intended to know everything that might affect their security or prosperity. The transformation of galactic politics accelerated as more species learned about human capabilities. Trade agreements, defense pacts, and mutual assistance treaties were signed at an unprecedented rate. Everyone wanted to be on the right side of the species that had destroyed the hegemony. Those who chose neutrality found themselves isolated and vulnerable in a galaxy where humans were rapidly becoming the dominant military power. 6 months after the destruction of the hegemony fleet, human ships patrolled star systems that had never seen Earth technology before. The TSN had grown from 12 vessels to over 100 as shipyards on Earth, and the colonies worked around the clock to meet demand. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the flagship of the growing fleet from his upgraded vessel that combined human weapons with the best alien defensive systems. The Galactic Council finally agreed to formal diplomatic relations with humanity after months of internal debate. Ambassador Helen Parker established the first human embassy on Centaurus Prime in a building that was heavily fortified and protected by Marine guards. Her diplomatic staff included intelligence officers, trade representatives, and military attachés, who monitored galactic affairs and reported directly to Earth Command. Trade between humans and alien species flourished as both sides discovered mutual benefits. Human-manufactured goods were highly valued for their durability and effectiveness. Alien technology provided advances in energy production, medical science, and communication systems that accelerated human development. The exchange was carefully monitored to ensure that Earth maintained its military advantages while gaining access to beneficial innovations. Lieutenant Ryan Clark received promotion to commander and took charge of the TSN Academy that was established. On the lunar base, human officers needed specialized training to command vessels equipped with hybrid technology systems. The Academy developed new tactics that combined human military doctrine with alien capabilities. Students learned to think beyond traditional limitations and exploit every possible advantage. The liberation of former hegemony territories created dozens of new independent governments that looked to Earth for protection and guidance. Human advisors helped establish democratic institutions and free market economies. TSN patrol vessels provided security while local forces were trained and equipped. The galaxy discovered that humans were as skilled at building alliances as they were at destroying enemies. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres supervised the construction of the first human dreadnought at the Wolf System Naval Base. The massive vessel incorporated lessons learned from captured alien ships while maintaining the aggressive design philosophy that made human weapons so effective. When completed, the UNS Sovereign would be larger than any hegemony vessel, but faster and more heavily armed than anything in galactic service. Commander Lisa Brooks expanded the Human Intelligence Service into a galaxy-spanning organization that monitored potential threats and opportunities. His operatives worked undercover in alien societies, gathering information about military capabilities, political developments, and technological advances. The intelligence network provided early warning about hostile activities and identified species that might become valuable allies or dangerous enemies. The first major test of human galactic leadership came when the Zephyrian Empire attempted to conquer the newly independent Calarian Republic. Zephyrian forces expected an easy victory against a species that had been hegemony subjects for centuries. They did not expect to face human warships defending Calarian space under a mutual defense treaty that Earth had signed with the young Republic. Admiral Patricia Wells commanded the task force that responded to Zephyrian aggression. 12 human vessels faced off against 40 Zephyrian ships in the first major battle since the hegemony's destruction. The aliens used traditional energy weapons and shield technology that had been effective against other galactic powers. They learned quickly that human kinetic weapons could penetrate their defenses and destroy their ships with devastating efficiency. The Battle of Calarian Prime lasted 8 hours and ended with the complete withdrawal of Zephyrian forces. Half of their fleet was destroyed, while human losses were limited to minor damage on 3 vessels. The victory demonstrated that the destruction of the hegemony had not been a lucky accident. Human military superiority was real and could be deployed anywhere in the galaxy to protect Earth's interests and allies. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez led fighter squadrons in the battle and proved that human tactics remained effective against different alien technologies. His pilots used speed and agility to outmaneuver larger enemy ships while targeting critical systems with precision strikes. The Zephyrians had never faced small craft that could threaten capital ships, and their defensive systems were unprepared for such attacks. The economic impact of human military action rippled through galactic markets as species realized that the old rules no longer applied. Aggressive expansion was now extremely risky because Earth would respond to protect weaker civilizations. Trade and diplomacy became more attractive alternatives to conquest. The galaxy was becoming more peaceful as human strength made war less profitable and more dangerous. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone designed the new generation of human starships that would replace the original Earth fleet. These vessels incorporated 3 years of combat experience and access to alien technology that had been adapted for human use. The ships were faster, more heavily armed, and better protected than anything currently in service. Construction began at shipyards throughout human space. The Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as a major power with permanent membership and veto authority over Council decisions. Ambassador Parker used this position to advocate for smaller species that might otherwise be ignored or exploited. Human influence grew as more civilizations recognized that Earth was committed to fair treatment and mutual benefit rather than domination. Captain Morrison received orders to establish the first human colony outside the solar system when suitable planets were identified in the Wolf system. The colony would serve as both a population center and a military stronghold that could project human power deeper into galactic space. Civilian settlers were protected by permanent naval bases and marine garrisons that could respond quickly to any threats. The transformation of galactic civilization accelerated as human ideas about democracy, individual rights, and free enterprise spread to species that had never experienced such concepts. Former hegemony subjects established new governments based on human models. Trade flourished as artificial barriers were removed and market forces were allowed to operate freely. Danny Torres received command of his own ship when the TSN expanded to meet growing responsibilities throughout the galaxy. The UNS Vigilant was assigned to patrol the frontier regions where new threats might emerge. His crew included both humans and alien volunteers who had proven their loyalty to Earth's values. The galaxy was learning that humans valued competence and dedication over species origin. The red alert that had once announced the arrival of human warships became a symbol of liberation for oppressed peoples throughout the galaxy. Civilizations, under threat, knew that help would come if they could signal Earth about their situation. The TSN maintained rapid response forces that could deploy anywhere within weeks of receiving distress calls from allied species. The second year of human galactic presence brought new challenges as established powers began forming alliances against Earth's growing influence. The Draconian Confederation secretly contacted the Zephyrian Empire and the Altarian Federation to discuss coordinated action against human expansion. Intelligence reports suggested that these three major civilizations were planning a joint military operation to test human resolve and capabilities. Captain Jake Morrison commanded a patrol squadron in the frontier sectors where human colonies were establishing their first settlements. His ships regularly encountered alien vessels conducting surveillance operations near human space. The aliens were careful to avoid direct confrontation, but their presence indicated that someone was gathering intelligence for possible future military action. Morrison's standing orders were to monitor these activities without initiating combat, unless directly threatened. Admiral Patricia Wells convened a strategic planning conference at Earth Command headquarters to address the growing alien coalition. Intelligence analysts presented evidence that the three enemy powers possessed more than 600 warships between them. Their combined fleet would outnumber human forces by a significant margin. However, the aliens had not yet experienced human weapons technology, and their tactical doctrines remained based on traditional energy combat systems. Commander Lisa Brooks expanded the Human Intelligence Service operations to penetrate the planning activities of potential enemies. His agents used advanced surveillance technology and recruited alien assets who could provide information about military preparations. The intelligence gathered revealed that the enemy alliance was planning a coordinated attack on multiple human positions simultaneously. Their goal was to force Earth into a multi-front war that would stretch human resources beyond their breaking point. The first human colony world at Wolf Prime became a testing ground for new defensive technologies. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone supervised the installation of orbital defense platforms equipped with the latest kinetic weapons systems. The platforms could engage enemy ships at extreme range using projectiles that were virtually impossible to intercept. Any alien fleet approaching the colony would face concentrated fire from multiple directions. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark established the Advanced Tactical School at the Lunar Academy to train officers in multi-fleet operations. Human commanders needed to understand how to coordinate attacks across vast distances while maintaining communication and supply lines. The school developed new doctrines for fighting enemies who possessed numerical superiority but lacked experience against human combat methods. The Draconian Confederation made the first move by attacking a human merchant convoy in the neutral zone between major star systems. 3 cargo vessels were destroyed along with their military escorts before reinforcements could arrive. The attack was carefully planned to test human response times and tactical procedures. Draconian commanders expected to gather valuable intelligence, while inflicting minimal losses on their own forces. The human response exceeded all alien expectations for speed and violence. Admiral Wells deployed the entire First Fleet under Captain Morrison's command to hunt down the attacking force. 24 human warships cornered the Draconian squadron near a dead star system and launched a devastating attack that destroyed every enemy vessel. The aliens learned that humans would respond to any aggression with overwhelming force, regardless of the strategic importance of the target. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez led the fighter attacks that penetrated Draconian defensive formations and targeted their command ships. Human pilots had developed new tactics specifically designed to counter alien coordination advantages. By destroying communication systems and command vessels, small fighter squadrons could disrupt enemy formations and create opportunities for larger ships to exploit. The Draconians had never faced such aggressive small craft operations. The destruction of their reconnaissance force shocked the Draconian leadership and forced them to reconsider their assessment of human capabilities. Intelligence reports had suggested that humans were dangerous but manageable opponents who could be defeated through superior numbers and coordination. The reality was that human weapons and tactics were far more advanced than any alien military had anticipated. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres commanded the weapon systems aboard the UNS Sovereign during its first major engagement against alien forces. The massive dreadnought's kinetic accelerators could destroy enemy vessels at ranges that made return fire impossible. Alien energy weapons lost effectiveness over long distances, but human projectiles maintained their lethal velocity across interplanetary distances. The technological advantage gave human ships the ability to engage enemies before they could fight back. The Zephyrian Empire launched their own probe against human defenses by attacking the frontier colony at Kepler Station. 50 Zephyrian ships moved against the lightly defended outpost, expecting to achieve an easy victory that would demonstrate their power to potential allies. Instead, they encountered Captain Sarah Mitchell's defense squadron that had been reinforced with the latest hybrid technology vessels. The Battle of Kepler Station became a textbook example of how human defensive strategies could defeat numerically superior enemies. Captain Mitchell used the colony's orbital platforms to create overlapping fields of fire, while her mobile units struck at enemy flanks. Zephyrian ships found themselves caught in crossfire from multiple directions, while human kinetic weapons systematically destroyed their formation. 30 enemy vessels were eliminated, while human losses were limited to minor damage on 2 ships. Ambassador Helen Parker used the alien attacks to strengthen Earth's position within the Galactic Council. She presented evidence that the 3 enemy powers were attempting to destabilize galactic peace through unprovoked aggression against human civilians. Her diplomatic offensive gained support from smaller species who feared that they might be next if the aliens succeeded in weakening human power. The Altarian Federation hesitated to join their allies after witnessing the destruction of Draconian and Zephyrian forces. Their military advisors warned that human combat effectiveness was far beyond initial estimates and that direct confrontation would likely result in significant losses. Political leaders began seeking alternative approaches that might achieve their goals without risking their fleet in battles they were unlikely to win. Commander Brooks received intelligence reports indicating that the alien alliance was fracturing under the pressure of unexpected defeats. The Draconians were demanding immediate action to avenge their losses, while the Zephyrians wanted to consolidate their remaining forces for defensive operations. The Altarians were secretly exploring diplomatic solutions that might allow them to withdraw from the alliance without losing face. The human response to alien aggression included economic sanctions that restricted trade with enemy species and their allies. Earth controlled access to several critical trade routes and could impose significant costs on hostile civilizations. The economic pressure supplemented military action by making continued aggression expensive for alien governments that depended on galactic commerce. Captain Morrison prepared his fleet for the decisive battle that intelligence predicted would come within months. The enemy alliance would either commit their remaining forces to a major offensive or seek negotiated settlement. Either outcome would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy and establish whether humans would face continued challenges to their expanding influence or achieve recognition as the dominant military force in known space. The final confrontation began when the Draconian Confederation assembled the largest alien fleet in galactic history at the edge of human space. 400 warships from 3 different species gathered in the Vega system under unified command. The alien alliance had decided that human expansion must be stopped before Earth became too powerful to challenge. Their plan was simple and brutal: overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers and destroy enough ships to force humanity back to their home system. Admiral Patricia Wells received intelligence reports about the massive enemy buildup and immediately began concentrating human forces for the coming battle. The TSN could deploy 150 ships, including the new dreadnoughts that had been completed at shipyards throughout human space. The numerical disadvantage was significant, but human commanders were confident that superior weapons and tactics would balance the odds. Earth's survival depended on proving that quality could triumph over quantity. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the advance squadron that conducted reconnaissance operations near the alien staging area. His ships used stealth technology adapted from captured enemy systems to observe alien preparations without being detected. The intelligence gathered revealed that the enemy commanders expected a traditional battle fought at close range using energy weapons. They had not prepared for human kinetic weapons that could engage targets across vast distances. The alien fleet began moving toward human space under the command of Admiral Trakhar, a Draconian officer who had studied every available report about human combat methods. His strategy relied on surrounding individual human ships with multiple attackers to overwhelm their defensive systems. The alien admiral believed that human weapons were powerful, but their ships could not survive concentrated fire from dozens of enemy vessels. Commander Lisa Brooks coordinated intelligence operations that provided real-time information about alien fleet movements and intentions. His agents operating within enemy territory transmitted data about tactical formations, communication frequencies, and command structures. The information allowed human commanders to anticipate alien movements and prepare countermeasures that would exploit weaknesses in their battle plans. The first phase of the battle began when human long-range kinetic weapons opened fire while the alien fleet was still forming up for their attack. Tungsten projectiles, traveling at significant fractions of light speed, struck enemy ships before they realized they were under attack. 50 alien vessels were destroyed or disabled before they could return fire. The surviving ships discovered that human weapons had much longer range than their own energy systems. Admiral Wells deployed her forces in a defensive formation that maximized the advantages of human technology while minimizing exposure to enemy numbers. Heavy units like the UNS Sovereign anchored strong points that could not be overrun, while faster ships conducted hit-and-run attacks against alien flanks. The formation forced enemies to approach through carefully prepared kill zones where human weapons could inflict maximum damage. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez led the largest fighter operation in human history when 300 small craft launched coordinated attacks against alien command ships. The fighters used their superior speed and maneuverability to penetrate enemy defensive screens and target critical systems. Alien point defense weapons were designed to stop incoming missiles rather than agile craft piloted by skilled humans who could adjust their approach vectors in real time. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres supervised ammunition distribution across the human fleet as the battle intensified. Kinetic weapons required physical projectiles that could be exhausted during prolonged fighting. Human logistics officers had prepared for extended combat by stockpiling tungsten rods at strategic locations throughout the battle zone. Supply ships risked enemy fire to keep frontline vessels armed and ready to fight. The alien assault reached its peak when over 200 enemy ships concentrated their attack on the human center, where Admiral Wells commanded from her flagship. Draconian, Zephyrian, and Altarian vessels coordinated their fire to overwhelm human defensive systems through pure volume of energy weapons. For 30 minutes, the outcome of the battle hung in balance as both sides suffered heavy casualties. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone kept the UNS Prometheus fighting even after the ship lost main power and primary weapon systems. Her engineering teams rerouted energy through damaged conduits and jury-rigged repairs that violated every safety protocol in human space. The ship's secondary kinetic accelerators continued firing even as hull breaches vented atmosphere and internal explosions shook the vessel. Human determination to keep fighting impressed even enemy observers. The turning point came when Captain Morrison's flanking force emerged from behind a gas giant and struck the alien rear formations. The surprise attack caught enemy ships while they were focused on the main battle and unable to maneuver effectively. Human weapons carved through the alien fleet from behind while their attention was fixed on the forces in front of them. The coordinated assault broke the enemy formation and turned organized attack into chaotic retreat. Admiral Track Har realized that his massive fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought unlike anyone in galactic history. Human tactics emphasized mobility, firepower, and coordination over traditional approaches based on ship size and energy output. The aliens had brought the wrong weapons to fight the wrong kind of war against opponents who had perfected military science through centuries of practice. The retreat became a rout when human pursuit forces caught fleeing alien ships before they could escape to hyperspace. Captain Morrison's squadrons had positioned themselves to intercept enemy vessels attempting to flee the battle zone. One by one, the surviving alien ships were hunted down and destroyed. The message was clear. Attacking humanity carried consequences that no enemy could escape. Commander Brooks monitored alien communications during the final phase of the battle and detected panic among enemy commanders who had never experienced such devastating losses. The alien alliance was collapsing as each species blamed the others for strategic failures. Draconian officers accused Zephyrian commanders of cowardice, while Altarian representatives demanded immediate withdrawal from the alliance. The Battle of Vega ended with the complete destruction of the alien fleet. Over 300 enemy ships were eliminated while human losses totaled 18 vessels damaged and 5 destroyed. The victory demonstrated beyond any doubt that humanity had become the dominant military power in the galaxy. No combination of alien forces could match human weapons technology and tactical expertise. Admiral Wells surveyed the debris field that marked the end of organized alien resistance to human expansion. The scattered wreckage of hundreds of ships would serve as a monument to the folly of challenging Earth's growing power. The galaxy would learn that humans were not content to remain confined to their home system and would defend their interests with overwhelming force wherever necessary. The political consequences of the alien defeat rippled through galactic civilization, as species that had supported the alliance rushed to distance themselves from the failed campaign. Diplomatic missions departed for Earth carrying offers of trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Everyone wanted to be on the winning side. Now that human military superiority had been proven beyond question. 5 years after the Battle of Vega, human ships patrolled trade routes throughout the galaxy, while Earth's colonies flourished on dozens of worlds. The Terran Space Navy had grown into the most powerful military force in known space, with over 500 vessels ranging from fast scouts to massive dreadnoughts. No alien species dared challenge human authority directly after witnessing the complete destruction of the anti-human alliance. Captain Jake Morrison received promotion to admiral and took command of the Second Fleet that was responsible for exploring regions beyond the established galactic borders. His ships pushed deeper into unknown space, searching for new worlds suitable for human colonization and investigating reports of alien civilizations that had not yet made contact with the galactic community. The expansion of human influence showed no signs of slowing down. The Galactic Council had been transformed from a loose confederation of independent species into an organization that operated under human leadership. Ambassador Helen Parker served as the Council's first human Director General with authority to make binding decisions on behalf of all member civilizations. Her administration focused on establishing universal standards for trade, diplomacy, and conflict resolution that reflected human values and interests. Commander Lisa Brooks expanded the Human Intelligence Service into a galaxy-spanning network that monitored potential threats and opportunities throughout known space. His operatives worked openly as diplomatic attachés and trade representatives while also conducting covert operations against hostile governments. The intelligence organization had become essential for maintaining human dominance over species that might otherwise challenge Earth's authority. The economic transformation of galactic civilization accelerated as human business practices replaced traditional alien methods. Free market capitalism proved more efficient than the planned economies that had dominated galactic trade for millennia. Human corporations established operations on alien worlds while maintaining strict quality standards that made their products highly valued throughout civilized space. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark commanded the TSN War College that trained officers from allied species in human military doctrines. The curriculum emphasized aggressive tactics, technological innovation, and the importance of decisive victory over prolonged conflict. Alien officers who graduated from the college returned to their home fleets with new understanding of why human methods were superior to traditional approaches. The former hegemony territories had been reorganized into the Human Protected Zone, where Earth guaranteed security and prosperity for any species that accepted human oversight. The HPZ included over 200 star systems and 40 different civilizations that benefited from human protection while contributing resources and expertise to the growing human empire. The arrangement was voluntary, but the alternatives were considerably less attractive. Chief Petty Officer Danny Torres received promotion to fleet captain and took command of the newest class of human warships that incorporated 5 years of technological development. The vessels combined human kinetic weapons with advanced alien defensive systems and propulsion technology. No known force in the galaxy could match their firepower or survive their attacks. The ships represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. The first generation of humans born on alien worlds began reaching adulthood and taking positions throughout galactic society. These young people had grown up speaking multiple languages and understanding different alien cultures, while maintaining their human identity and values. They served as natural ambassadors who could bridge the gap between Earth and the diverse species that now accepted human leadership. Admiral Patricia Wells retired from active duty and became the first director of the Terran Colonial Administration that managed human settlements throughout the galaxy. Her experience in military command proved valuable for organizing civilian governments and establishing infrastructure on newly settled worlds. The colonial administration ensured that human expansion proceeded in an orderly manner that maximized benefits for all involved parties. Pilot Officer Greg Martinez commanded the elite fighter squadron that provided security for high-level diplomatic missions throughout the galaxy. His pilots were the best trained and most experienced in human space with combat records that intimidated potential enemies. The squadron's reputation for invincibility served as a powerful deterrent against anyone who might consider threatening human interests or personnel. The discovery of ancient ruins on several worlds beyond the galactic rim suggested that humanity was not the first species to achieve interstellar dominance. Archaeological evidence indicated that a previous civilization had controlled vast regions of space before disappearing for unknown reasons. Human scientists studied the ruins carefully to understand what had happened to their predecessors and how to avoid similar fate. Chief Warrant Officer Amy Stone led the engineering teams that developed new technologies based on discoveries made in the ancient ruins. The artifacts contained information about weapon systems and propulsion methods that exceeded current human capabilities. Careful research and testing produced breakthroughs that would maintain human technological superiority for generations to come. The transformation of galactic politics was complete when the last major alien power requested membership in the human Commonwealth. The Altarian Federation formally dissolved their government and accepted Earth's authority over their territory and population. With this final capitulation, humanity had achieved complete dominance over known galactic civilization through a combination of military might and economic incentives. Commander Brooks received authorization to establish his operations beyond the galactic rim, where unknown civilizations might pose future threats to human security. The intelligence service would maintain constant surveillance of potentially hostile species while gathering information about technological capabilities and military preparations. Early warning systems would ensure that Earth could respond to any challenge before it became dangerous. The centennial celebration of human spaceflight was marked by ceremonies throughout the galaxy as allied species honored Earth's achievements. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered at Luna City to witness the dedication of monuments commemorating human heroes who had died defending galactic freedom. The celebrations demonstrated that human leadership was accepted and appreciated by the civilizations that benefited from their protection. Captain Morrison's exploration fleets discovered evidence of other galaxies beyond the local group that contained advanced civilizations. Long-range sensors detected artificial structures and energy signatures that indicated intelligent activity on an enormous scale. The discoveries suggested that humanity's expansion might eventually extend beyond their current galaxy to establish influence over even larger regions of space. The red alert that had once announced the arrival of human warships had become a symbol of liberation and protection throughout the galaxy. Civilizations under threat knew that help would come when they signaled Earth about their situation. The TSN maintained rapid response forces that could deploy anywhere within days of receiving distress calls from allied species or human colonies. Admiral Morrison prepared for the next phase of human expansion as exploration ships identified suitable routes to neighboring galaxies. The journey would take decades even with the fastest human vessels, but the potential rewards were enormous. Humanity had proven their ability to dominate their home galaxy and now faced the ultimate challenge of extending their influence to the entire universe.